Oh, it's already recording. Alright, so we're going to start a new video set here, and this one's going to be for mask generators or mesh adaptives. What these are the cool little nodes that create things like these water streaks you see here. They create edge wear, all kinds of stuff. You can find them under mesh adaptive in Substance Designer. And we're going to be kind of creating our own. Now, this is a lot of thinking. This is like one of those things you could almost like do like 30-minute sketches a day to try to come up with different effects, you know, and how does this interact with this, and how can I optimize this? There's all kinds of different conclusions to come to, and all kinds of ways to get there. And these things are really powerful, and the things that a lot of artists really end up enjoying to use, because it speeds up doing a lot of those little effects. It speeds up making edge damage. It speeds up doing weathering, things like that, especially if you can automate it. So here's the old version of that wall that I handed out, where it's really just a bake down flat plane. And if you guys remember during the last tutorial, if you haven't watched it, about templates, you can go ahead and go back and watch it. Give me feedback on it. I was trying to play with this leak node, and it was all sorts of broken on the last one. And that's because of some choices I made that made it so it works mostly on flat type surfaces and not stuff that actually has normal information as a whole, if that makes any sense. So I got to thinking that, hey, this would be the perfect example node. Why? Because it's broken currently for purposes I need it for, but it works for flat plane objects. So it can still be used for walls and floors and things that you're going to be automating your normal map through. Let's say you're making a wall just like this. You know, it's a background wall. It doesn't have to have information on it. It's just a baked down, you know, normal. Then, hey, this type of node can work perfectly for you. And we can still use it for that kind of stuff, too. And so we're going to be going over kind of the ways I made this. Not kind of the ways. We'll be going over the ways I made this. We're not going to make it exactly how I made it. A, because I want you guys to come to your own conclusion. B, because it's technically now Red 5's property. And lastly, because if we go up to leaks, it uses an FX node, and we're not going into that. FX nodes are incredibly powerful. They're really the heart of Substance Designer when it comes to all your noises and grunges you see. They're all being based off of these FX nodes and spawning pixels. So we're not going to be going over that. I can go over why I used it, and that's because with FX nodes, you can actually have it spawn based on position, and that position is based on black and white. So I can input. If you see here, input image 1 is just a black and white mask, okay? And this is basically the areas I want to start spawning images on. So I'm telling it, all right, within this node, I'm telling it input 1 is your position. So you're going to get that position. And then here I have a bunch of different noises that I created. And I'm telling it, okay, now spawn those noises in those areas. So then it's going to go ahead and trace along with those noises. And then I can start doing level adjustments, things like that, blurs, so on and so forth, so I can get really random effects and a really clean way to give people options of changing how the dirt looks and things like that. If we go back over here to this test plate, I can show you. So we go back to this test plate. We'll go ahead and let's see, where did I put it? First one. So like I can make the randomness, you know, I can actually have it be random because it's going to just start recalculating where those are spawning along that line through the effects node. You know, I can, what's some other stuff that it's doing? Samples is normal. Actually, I think that's really the main reason was the randomness. But then I can also scale. I can scale the dirt as well. So we're adjusting how large it is, it's spawning in there, so on and so forth. It just gives you a certain level of control you won't have when you do it kind of the way we're doing it. But again, this is learning. You need to start asking those questions to yourself, like, hey, how do I get it to spawn on certain places? how do I make this more complex, and then finding that out and going from there. It helps the industry grow. It helps you learn and grow as well. There's no better way to learn than to teach, you know. So let's get started with this. So you're going to want to go ahead and start new. You can add it to a current project you have. Like here, these are all of our FX masks. So any mask that uses FX-based nodes, I have placed in here. We have one for dirt, one for other things as well. So in this case, we're just going to go to File, New, and we're going to make this our leaks 2. Now, why is it 2? Because they already have a leak node in here. If you come down here, you can see they already have a leaks. Now, why aren't we using that? Well, because it's better to practice creating your own things, and we can make it do what we want it to do. And we're not going to look as the same as someone else. Someone else that's using the one right out of the box. Is there anything wrong with the one right out of the box? No. But it doesn't mean there's not room for improvements and to make it yours. So the first thing we're going to want to do is start looking at some reference. Alright, so let's go back to our test plate, which isn't really reference, but we can see some of our streaks here. If we go ahead and look at, I typed in water runoff on metal, and we went ahead and took a look at this. We can start seeing kind of the effects we want. Like here, we have these streaks, alright, so that's looking similar. Well, kind of maybe the way we want to go is to do it more like when it starts drying, and it gets this calcified, dirty edge where the edge of the water is, and then the middle, dries out faster, so it's lighter. So we can maybe try effects like that. Try to get streaks. It's probably really hard to see this on your screen because I'm not recording at 1080p. Well, not posting at 1080p because I don't have a render farm and it takes too long. So a lot like this, where this guy has this traced out, you can see kind of the effect. Maybe we'll try for something like that. Let's find out where this will take us. It's kind of the fun part of this, and why I said you can do like sketch sessions in the morning with these is you can just start throwing some nodes together, see what effects you get, and work from it from there, and library it for a while, come back to it, work on it some more. A lot of the times that's kind of how I work with these, because you'll start playing with something else, and then that'll help solve another problem you have. Alright, so this is our goal, some water leaks on flat surfaces. Alright, and again, I Googled water runoff on metal, or no, this is not that, sorry. This is water streaks on walls. Water runoff on metal got me nowhere, unfortunately. Alright, so here goes our leaks 2. So let's talk about mask generators and the way you need to start thinking about them. So with these generators, if you see here, they have very generic inputs: position, curvature, ambient occlusion. So you need to think of ways of achieving the selections you want to be able to spawn the effects you want. And that's the hardest part. I know it's hard it is hard to explain, but once you kind of understand, it's going to make a lot more sense. So what I mean by obtaining the selection you want. If, we're looking at this wall, you're like, all right, I want to get an effect that's just in the crevices of this mask, and then it runs. Oh, everyone's being loud. I don't know what's up with that. And then it runs down the mesh. That person's having a good time, whoever it is. Sorry. All right. Where was I? Oh yeah, getting selections. So you need to be able to figure out what selections you want to get and how to achieve them. So a lot of these simple crevice ones or like edge ones are pretty easy. When you get to rounded surfaces like the battle frames, let me see if I go to those images. Oh, I actually had them up. When you get on the battle frames, when you get to rounded surfaces, large chamfered surfaces, it's a lot harder to grab those edges on something procedural like this. So sometimes you need to make a separate map or a separate mask that just grabs rounded edges, and then another one that grabs hard edges and things like that. So that can sometimes become the challenge of these, is how to make it so you're not hand drawing it, that you're actually automating this, and this will work on 90% of the meshes that I input in there. Just like you saw with that wall I was doing, it worked on a flat wall, didn't work on the other wall. Now I've thankfully figured out what exactly I did wrong there, and it's fixable. I just have to go back and fix it. So let's go back. So that's what you need to start thinking of. How do I get that surface? So let's go ahead and pin this so I stop losing that image, because we're going to go back to it probably a few times. Let's go back here. Alright. That didn't work. Dear Substance Designer, make it so that stays. Whatever. Alright. It'll stay sometimes. Sometimes. Just not today. So, the first thing you want to do is we need to come up with some type of thing to work off of. Because we know we're going to need normal map information. Okay. And why do we know this? We know this because, again, we want crevices, right? Best way to get crevices would be a curvature map or a cavity map. To get access to cavity or curvature, we need a normal. A lot of these are going to be based off normal maps or curvatures and ambient occlusions. So let's pick something to work off. Well, we're not going to work off that. We're going to work on. Let's go ahead and type in here. Let's type in brick in our search. All right, let's go ahead and get brick generator. Why not? Because we're doing flat surfaces. Why not use a brick generator? It's a flat surface. Let's go ahead and play around with it real quick. We don't need too much information in it. I want it to be smooth. I don't want some huge crazy bevel. Maybe I do want somewhat of a bevel. We want rounded corners, let's say. So the cool thing about using these generators while making these is that you can then, once you start working on your effect, you can test it really quick, because you can start sliding stuff, change the bricks, change the smoothness, which changes the normal map, which then will help show you any errors or any controls you need to add. Alright, so step one, make some bricks. Let's go ahead and make a normal out of this and increase its size. Now, if you want to just see what size you're at, you could just go ahead and hit View in 3D, choose normal map, and we can go ahead and have it just like that while we're working. Okay. So pretty much, you're going to probably want to just have the person input their normal map. So this part isn't going to actually be a part of our end graph, but we need it to test with. Okay. You're going to see this a lot while doing this. We're going to, break stuff. We are going to try different things. There we go. And then come back and probably clean stuff up as we work to get our effect. So right now we have this. So next we'll need to do a curvature or a cavity map. It's called curvature in here. Now there's curvature smooth. We don't really want that. We want just normal curvature. Okay. Go ahead and grab that. And now we have some information. Now why I like to just plug in a normal map, if you notice on their leaks, type this back in, leaks, it's asking for a curvature right off the bat. If you zoom in here, it's saying curvature. I want a curvature. Well, my problem with that is that if you keep the curvature inside of your node, inside of your end node, you can then expose the intensity. And what this intensity does is exactly what it sounds like, and gives a good control of how intense it is. You can use this for how to get selections. Maybe some things will disappear if you drop the intensity of your curvature. It's a level of control I actually kind of like having inside the node. Instead of people messing with it, trying to figure it out outside of the node, they're going to be doing the same thing. So why not just implement it, There could be a reason that algorithmic did it this way that I am not privy to. So let's go ahead and just drag it up to 10 all the way, max. Now in this case, we shouldn't have to worry about that whole conversion of the normal map based on what we have. Alright, well, next problem. Well, now we have a curvature. It's gray, black, and white. We need it to be black and white. So there's a few ways of doing this. Actually, not really. So we could try first, you could try levels, okay? And again, this is trial and error. That's why I said to just throw some stuff together and try some stuff, delete it, try it again. The more you do it, the more you're going to get used to how nodes interact and how to obtain the selections you want to obtain. So we could try levels. So we could, no, we don't want that. We want, something like this getting there. Alright, that's not bad. I don't like these white little boxes, but it looks like we're just going to end up with them. Might be the nature of the beast of the map we're working on. We could also increase the size of this. It might help. 2048. Alright. Change things up a bit. This is really blurry. Alright, so we could try it that way. Not horrible results. Not great results. We can mess with it a little bit more. Maybe we want to... not quite. Alright. So this is kind of finicky. The other way to do it, or try it, is we could try a gradient map. Gradient maps, things to note about gradient maps, they're non-exposable. You cannot expose a parameter on a gradient map. So whatever values you set in here are the values person number 2 is going to get, whoever's going to get it. But usually your curvature is going to have some of the same values. So we're going to do this. We're going to say... Alright. Nope, don't want that. So maybe we clear that. Alright, so now we have this weird white border. And we have this darkening. Okay. Make sure we're on the right node. Up, up, up. There we go. So there. So what is this gradient map doing? It's saying change a color within this gradient. So this is still black to white, okay? Basically what it's saying is change anything between this range of the gradient into white, change anything into this range of the gradient into black. You could also add colors and have it, randomize some colors in there and things like that. Alright, so now we have our top of the brick and the crevice of our brick. So we delete that, so we no longer need that, and let's say we go ahead and invert this. Okay, type in invert. We'll need invert color because it is a gradient. Okay, you could also do a grayscale conversion at that point. Actually, lied. I forgot about that. You can go to your gradient map, change it to grayscale. We'll pretty much only be working in grayscale. Okay. So there we go. So now we've selected in between our bricks minus these little spots. And we could try to work those out. They exist somewhere in all of this. So it's not there. Yeah, that's really weird. Could just be the nature of the beast for this. We're not going to worry about it right now. Again, I'm trying to show you a thought process and the basics of how to do something. I'll leave it up to you to make it as pretty as you want. If I make it too perfect, you're just going to copy it and use it for your own stuff. I don't want that. I want you to think. Alright, so we have our invert. Now we have our areas in which to do our leaks in. So start getting our streaks. Start doing this. So now the question becomes, well, so I figured out how to get my selection. Now how do I figure out how to get this effect? Okay. Well, There's two ways to do it. Well, not two ways. There's a few ways to do it. Just like everything so far I've said today, it seems there's a few ways to do it. You need to figure out you need to start thinking about how to backwards engineer stuff, and the more you do that, this doesn't make any sense. Wow, I'm all over the place. Sorry. Let's start that over. All right. To refocus my mind doesn't mean it worked, but I tried. So we've got our selection. So now you have to think about how to get your effect, how to spawn your effect. So we know we want leaking runs coming down our wall to look like water dripping, down, like so. So how do we achieve this? Well, you can look at the leaks itself, okay? So we can type in here and just be like, all right, leaks. Bring leaks node back in here, and we could open reference just to get an idea of how they created it. You could take a look in here and say, okay, they took their curvature and ambient occlusion, blended it together, used a noise, and then blurred it with a slope blur, histogram scan. Okay, so this is the rough idea of how they got it. Okay, so you can get an idea from that. Don't copy it, obviously. It's different if you want to change the dirt and things like that, but they give you an option to do that. Okay. So, what's the other way? Well, you want to blur it. Well, you should. That should be the idea of how to move stuff in a direction. Well, you have two things. You have directional warp and directional blur. So that's two things that have directions to them. So let's go to give it a shot. Let's find ourselves some type of noise. So let's get black and white spot 2. Let's give that a shot. Okay. Coding. Let's try directional warp first. Alright, plug that in. It needs a direction. So we'll just type in gradient. Okay. And we'll use this for our direction. Alright, let's start seeing what this does. Let's change our degree to 90 because it needs to go top to bottom. Alright, so we're going to adjust this 30, 40, so on and so forth. As you see, it is just stretching the image. We zoom into the image here, and it's just kind of stretching it. It's not giving us this very sharp drip effect like this. Okay, so that not quite working. Let's go and delete that. Directional blur. So let's try that. Okay, try that. Oops. This doesn't require a position input. Let's change this to 90. Oops. Alright, well now we're actually getting somewhere. Now you actually see this is causing some actual streaks to happen. But, seems to be a but in a lot of things. If you notice, it's stretching upwards and downwards, and we kind of want it to just go down. We don't want this weird up and down thing. So that doesn't quite work. Alright, so what does that leave us with? Well, we still have... let's go back to our directional warp. Maybe we could try to figure something out here. Okay. Have our directional warp. Plug it in. Plug back in our direction. Okay. Make it 90. Maybe we don't need this high of intensity. Okay. Well, but even with us adjusting the intensity, again, it's just moving. It can get real frustrating. And this is where sometimes asking a question, looking at something else node, things like that. Well, we know it's going to streak based on white and black. White's going to show the streak because we're going to overlay it. So let's try to do... Actually, let's try to make that part. How about that? We'll take a break from that, right? We'll go to levels. We'll start messing with the levels to break this up a little bit. Okay? Something like that. Okay? And we know this is going to have to get blended at some point with our mask, right? So let's go ahead and do this. Okay? And we'll do what? Subtract? No. Multiply? Maybe add. Nope. Oops. Alright, now let's try subtract. There we go. So now it's in between the cracks. Let's go back to our levels. Adjust this some more. So we have a good breakup. Okay. Maybe this is a little bit too much. I would actually say it's way too much. Not just a little. There we go. Alright. Something like that, maybe. Alright. So, let's try blending from here now. Let's go back to our directional warp, which is in the wrong spot. Come back over here. Plug this into our directional warp. Alright, so it stretched out a little bit. Let's stretch it out. Still not doing it. It's just kind of dancing, right? But it's pushing downwards, so we're kind of on the... It's almost like we're on the right track. Alright. So maybe if we just duplicate this, okay? And instead of warping it again, since this moved down already, let's warp that. Okay. And let's blend them together. With a, what, max? Okay. Oh. Well, look at this. Now, if we look at our first one, now we go to this one, it's stretching out. Okay. So that seems positive. Although it seems to be stretching upwards. So maybe we need to change our direction to -90. Okay. Like that. Okay. So now it's starting to slide down. Alright, so that means we're onto something. It's a positive. So let's do the same thing. Let's duplicate this like this. Connect that there. Alright. And then add another blend. Like that. And like this. Alright, now we're a little bit further, if you see. Oh. Let's add the max light. Now you'll see it's a little bit further. Alright, so... Alright, now we're streaking it down a little bit further. Alright, running out of time in this video. So, we can keep doing this until we get our streaks. Or, thankfully, there's already a node that does all of this. And that's how someone made it. I wanted to show you that process because someone started doing that and realized, hey, I can make a custom node for this, so now I can automate this in whatever I want to do. And that's exactly what you need to be doing with Substance Designers, just always thinking. So here goes our grayscale input. Okay, this is our slope. Bam. So it's automatically doing that and duplicating over and over and over. Okay, increase our samples. Now we have some drips. Alright. So we could actually delete all of this, like so. Now we have the starts to our effect. Now it's pretty normal right now. It's nothing special. It's pretty just bland, you know. So in the next video we're going to start going over ways to enhance it. So we figured out how to get our stuff blaring just downwards, as you see. It just moves from there down. So we figured out that part, which is great. Now we're going to start prettying it up and making it become more of the effect that we want it to become. Alright, so hopefully this was helpful. Please add questions, comments below. And thanks everyone for the comments I've gotten about the videos. Well, not comments on the videos that I've seen yet, but I've gotten a few PMs and things like that. And thanks guys, glad you guys are liking them and they're getting help from them. And hopefully I can continue to help you and not terribly confuse you. So, till next time, enjoy.